Hello guys, and welcome to a new Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a 1 versus 1 on Slutsk East, and I'm going to be playing with the 26th Panzer and the balanced deployment type. I'm up against Hobotango again, who's going to be using the 43rd Reserve Army with the Maverick deployment type. This is Game 2 of the Steel Division League Season 9, Division 3. If you guys missed the first game that I played against Hobo, definitely make sure to go back and check it out. But if you guys don't want spoilers, here's your spoiler warning. I won the first game, and basically I was going into this quite confident. I wasn't particularly happy with how I played the first game necessarily. There were definitely big mistakes on my part. Letting Hobo back onto the hill on the normal Slutsk map was a bit of a mistake from my part. But Hobo equally made some big mistakes, particularly at the start of his game. So I didn't expect him to make the same mistakes twice and kind of go back to what he knows and a strong strategy. So he's decided to bring Maverick into my balanced. That means that my objective is to basically stall the game, make sure that he doesn't get too much of an advantage early on, and then past like the 20-minute mark, going into like the 25-minute mark, if Hobo doesn't have a big enough advantage, then he is in a really bad position. I'm going to be able to capitalize on that with the 26th Panzer because it's quite a strong division throughout all phases. Particularly moving into the late game when I can really exploit Verflammen's, Panthers, that kind of stuff. Although he does have equally scary amount of armor and so on, because he does have access to IS-2s. He also has access to Su-152s, which are really strong 2,000 meter range HE. So there is definitely a lot to worry about with the 43rd Reserve Army, but I'll talk more about that as we move into the replay. BF-109 going to be coming out with recon at the start. I really wanted to see if he was like trying to push anywhere unorthodox. He did put a lot of stuff on this right hand side early on, so I noticed that, and he's obviously investing quite a large amount onto this hill. So I've got Flammenwerfer moving up with Sturm. I've got the Panzergrens moving in here with more Flammenwerfer, Sturm, Auftaler going to be moving into the church here. 259 Pioneer Führers coming in with the 251-9 and the Pak 40 unloaded on the road there. On the right hand side, I believe I lost quite a lot of stuff. Both of these BMWs went down with my flamethrowers in it, and the Sturm gets taken out. MG42 tried to cover that. Meanwhile, the SG43 going to be unloading my Flammenwerfer in the open on the right hand side. MG42 in the meantime going to be taking care of his PTRS. So he got pretty much a triple kill with his PTRS on the right early on, which was unfortunate for me. I was busy trying to micro into the town because it's much more important losing this hill. Just like in the last game for Hobo, like if I lose the hill this time around, then that's going to be really bad for me because it gives him pressure on the bridge flag and the town flag here. So I'm holding my position further up. I'm not going to be too aggressive. I'm going to let him come into me. I'm just going to be careful of his infantry because he's got these Strafniki squads, these fanatical Strafniki squads. One of them's the more standard 20-man Strafniki, but with the fanatical trait, and then the other ones have Avtos. He's got the Strafniki Avto squads, which are, I think, 12-man or 15-man squads. Yeah, 15-man squads with submachine guns. They're really, really good at close range. And he's also got Separi Rocks. So, yeah, my small infantry squads here, just a little bit outmanned. And I'm going to have to fall those back. So what I'm going to do that is basically smoke my way back into these buildings and then use the 259 to cover my retreat and the 251-9 here. Really big fan of the 251-9 because it has a machine gun and the HE fire support from its main gun. That's really, really strong. Anyway, Flamethrower is going to go down to the Avtos there, unfortunately. LA7 did try and commit onto my BF-109, so I was forced to leave with that. SG42 in the town is pinning down my Pak 40, so move across the 251-9 to engage that. Meanwhile, the Strafniki going to be moving in next to the Sturm, but if I can get the Molotovs on target, it's going to push them out almost immediately, so able to get a lot of damage off there. And as these Avto Strafniki try and cross the open cover there into my Sturm in heavy cover, they get absolutely deleted. So that was good for me. 259 is going to be engaging the Strafniki as well. 20 mils are a good choice for just like deleting these squads. You can see over here, like the fanatical unit is currently having a hard time. The 85 mil AA is going to wipe out my 251-9 on the left. So things are a little bit stretched thin here. You know, I don't really have the same quality infantry as he does. Like, these squads are really, really difficult to deal with. But I'm going to be smoking off, getting the flamethrower onto the T-34. There is potential for me to like kill the T-34 if I micro that correctly, but I was also just trying to take out the 45mm AT gun there, so that's why I was moving forwards quite aggressively. Meanwhile, Sagittario versus LA7. I think he brought in the LA7 to maybe strafe something or something, but I'm going to be pulling off from that engagement. I do finally have a Gepard here, the plan being to just prevent him from being able to hover about with his LA7. So Panzergrens with the 2 vet are still very much superior to the DP machine guns that he's using, so I'm able to pin these down quite a lot. The only issue that I'll be having over the time is basically just damage, like being able to kill enough of these in time. Like, suppression's great and all, but if you can't surrender your enemy units, you have to be able to do damage, and that is the big problem that I'm having. Panzer III is going to get the shooter kill onto the T-34, so I'm going to commit for a second shot, but he manages to get out of line of sight just in time. I don't want to face tank the PTRD, so I'm going to be backing off a little bit, get my 251-9 forwards. I maybe should have been tanking that with the Panzer III actually, rather than the 251-9, because the Strafniki is a lot more likely to kill the 251-9 than it is the Panzer III due to the armor difference. But more Panzergrens going to be on the way. I figured if I just like kind of spam Panzergrens into the town early on, I can keep his units at range and keep forcing him to fall back here, because currently it's 12 to 12 with 5 minutes into phase A, so I'm relatively happy with my position. PE3 going to be coming in with a rocket strike looking for the Panzer III, but my Sagittario going to be well timed here to get onto the back of the PE3 and shoot it down. So lovely stuff. Sagittario doing its job. So Paradox going to be pushing forwards onto my 251-9. I was hoping to be able to pin that down before it got in the building, but unfortunately it does, and it's going to be able to get the flame on target to get the kill with the grenade into the open top. So that's bad news for my 251-9. The Superiorox with the flamer can also do a decent amount of damage to the Panzer III, so I've got to be careful there, but the Panzergrens are going to jump out this building, get line of sight, and then push back forwards with the Panzer III. So a bit of a back and forth right now. Got a Pack 40 in position on the right to cover the open against any vehicles he wants to use there, because Hobo has now brought up a T-34-85. I'm going to be unloading those to make sure they don't go down to that. Superiorox in the meantime do get killed off, and I managed to get the Panzergren back into cover in the meantime. 2 more Panzergrens did arrive on the left. I still need to get used to giving the unloaded position order as I bring in units. Like, that's something that I still haven't got my head around in this game. It's probably one of the last micro things that I really need to just like force myself to learn, because it's so useful. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, if you're like newer to the game, basically if you select a unit that you want to bring in, you can then give it a command before it comes in, which is really useful. Anyway, Strafniki Komroti get the TNT onto my Panzer III while I wasn't paying attention, and I did manage to get the shot onto the T-34 with the APCR, but yeah, the TNT ended up killing the Panzer III because it was already damaged. Panzerstrak there though manages to find the T-34-76 Komroti, so I'm happy with that. LA7 comes over the top of my AA and its pilot unconscious, so that's fine. Does commit deep for the BF-109, so I'm going to be able to get the Sagittario out, look for the kill onto this LA7. Unfortunately the LA7 is very fast. Sorry, I was just trying to zoom in on the Sagittario there, so not quite able to catch up with that, and the AA going to be falling out of range. I was hoping maybe those last 2 shots could get the job done, but the Sagittario going to have to pull off from that engagement. But yeah, Panzergrens doing what they do best, playing at range. Also, meanwhile, here I've got the Grilla engaging the 85mm, and you can see that the line of sight here is a little bit cut off due to this hill. So what I'm doing is I'm actually fire positioning to the left. Now this is a very similar strategy to firing short. Like if you're out in the open and you're at 2,000 meter range, you can fire just short of a 2,000 meter range unit to pin it down before you fully engage it. In this case I don't necessarily need to do that because the Grilla outranges the 85mm, but what I can also do is fire position slightly to the left or slightly to the right. Anyway, these Strafniki
currently having a hard time. I actually jumped forwards with the Slutsk East and absolutely destroyed the Avto-Strafniki here as they approach. Like, this Slutsk is just really, really good at this sort of medium range if you manage to catch out an infantry squad that's like in the open. Now watch this. I just get deleted by the double Slutsk there. Big kill. So any of these infantry squads that I'm taking out is really nice because he gets very much a limited availability of the Strafniki and the Strafniki Avtos. I also managed to get like a nice transport snipe there onto the VZ-Bod. He probably ordered that to come in onto the hill and it accidentally took that road, so he ended up kind of struggling with that out in the open. SU-122 is going to get hit by my Pak 40. I was surprised to see the SU-122. Usually, I think you can just get like 2 cards of SU-152s, which I think are just better. But yeah, anyway, meantime in the town, my low health Panzergren jumps forwards, gets the T-34 kill. Pak 40 is going to get the SU-122 kill. So I'm pretty happy with how things are going trading wise. Panzergren in the meantime on the right hand side has pushed up and got that flag, so that's going to cancel out the 13 to 11 as well. Just don't want to bleed too many tickets if I don't have to. And we've just moved into phase B. So in phase A, things are relatively even. You know, he only has a 5-point lead, so that's okay. It's moving into phase B that I'm going to be a little bit worried about, because this is where his points lead will really start to, or like his capability to bring in more stuff than me will really start to build up, and it will be until like the end of phase B and into the beginning of phase C that he'll be able to utilize that advantage. So I've really got to watch out from here on out and not lose too many units. Now my half track's going to be going down here. Kubel MG has moved up just to provide me a little bit of recon, but just coming under fire from the Strafniki with the triple MG plus the T-34 firing at it. That's going to go down pretty fast. Panzer IV though does get some nice damage onto the Strafniki. That was really good. And the Panzer IV is going to be able to take care of the BA-10M. So just able to one-shot these BA-10Ms. And they struggle against medium armor because they don't have much health. But what I'm going to be doing, seeing his T-34 like on the road, going to be bringing both the Panzer IVs in at the same time, looking to just kind of get both shots on target. Unfortunately, I thought this was aiming before the second one came in. It turns out it wasn't. Thankfully, this one's going to aim and fire before he reverses, so I don't miss that opportunity. Managed to get the T-34 85. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, Pak 40 trying to engage the 85, T-34 85, 9043 also helping out there. Meanwhile, my Panzergren's going to be doing a runner from the double Sapere that had pushed into the town here. My Panzergrens are getting some good damage onto the infantry on the left here. Stopping those Strafniki early, making them unload, very important. Another thing I managed to do was get a bailout onto the T-34 85. I think the Pak 40 hit that. And the Panzer IV is going to finish it off. The double tank support here really, really coming in handy. P3 though now coming in with the rocket strike, and I've only got 1 AA. It's not going to be enough to stop that from landing its rockets, and the Panzer IV does go down. So an effective P3 strike. Sagittario just a little bit late this time. I'm going to be putting that way almost immediately because I don't want it to get hit by the 285 mils. You see I've brought up a Werframen, going to be dropping some of those rockets onto the Sapere. I didn't actually intend to use as many rockets as I did there because I kind of wanted to split the shots. I wanted to pin down the Sapere, use the Panzergrens to actually surrender the Sapere, or at least, you know, push the Sapere out of position so I can move the Panzergrens forwards and shoot them in the open. And then drop like another few rockets over here so that I could contest this flag, because if I actually managed to get my line over this flag right now, it would be a 13-11 to my favour. However, on the right hand side, he's finally dealt with his Panzergren, so they're going to get pinned. They're going to end up falling behind enemy lines, and the Avto-Straf plus the SG-42 43, sorry, are going to be able to deal with that. Anyway, LA7 coming overhead, and going to be going for the strafing run onto the Pak 40. He can see that due to the Sapere and the open. Going to be unloading it. Last rocket is fired from that Werframen strike, and that's just looking to assist this area basically. So it lands, not really what I wanted it to. I wanted it basically further back so it could pin some of these units. Yak 9 coming in with a bombing strike there, not ideal. So another Gepard on the way and an SDKZ 7-1. Just got to try and shut down some of this air force that he's invested into. Meanwhile, still microing the Stormtroop here to get really good value. You can see just how much damage they do. Look at that. That's a one man just being an absolute hero, chunking the Slutsk off. And the Stormtroop here also in a good position. So Hobo's forced out of there. I don't really have any like close range AT to deal with the T-34, except from the Pak-40 like back here that's covering the road. So that's why Hobo's kind of like driven off to the road on the side. Meanwhile, Grilla comes in, takes out the 85 on the hill, so that's a good kill for me. And I'm also going to be able to clean up this Appley here as well. So make short work of those. Verflammen got him out of this position, so relatively happy with that. The Pak-40 unloaded on the hill here. Now going to be kind of covering this T-34, which is kind of stuck at the moment. It's really, really stuck. I've decided to go for a Focke-Wulf, coming in with the 250 kilogram bomb and the 4 40 kilogram bombs. 450 kilogram bombs, sorry. Going for the Appley squad, that's actually more scary for me than the T-34-85 here. Because the T-34-85 I can actually kill with the flamethrower and the Pioneer Führer if he gets too close. And if he drives out either side at any point, the Pak-40s can kill him. So the T-34 isn't the problem, it's the Appley that would kill the infantry here first that is the problem, which is why I decided to bomb that and end up getting the kill. Now we're going to be seeing the IS-2 1943 arrive up on this hill. You can see he's now brought in the Yak 9 and the LA-7. LA-7 is going to be going for the strafing run. I've got plenty of AA in now though, so the Gepards here able to get a good amount of damage in. Unfortunately the Yak manages to get away, but getting a decent amount of damage onto the LA-7, hoping to shoot that down and just about managed to get it. With a little bit of better micro I might have been able to kill the Yak, but then again it might have strafed the or the LA-5 would have been able to strafe the Pak-40 more. But yeah, neutralizing a lot of his air power now. P3 not going to be able to pick up like the Grilla kill I think it was going for. So yeah, I'm happy. Verflammen has reloaded, so going to be getting those 6 rockets ready to fire at this location as I'm now contesting this flag. It's 12 to 12. And we're moving towards phase C. I haven't given him a double tick, and he's playing Maverick. So I'm feeling pretty confident, but I'm still under a lot of pressure. And I'm seeing an Su-152 on the horizon. Obviously the IS-2 was up here. So there are still some big obstacles in my way that I've got to deal with. Pak-40 there, I'm just going to get blasted. That's double Su-152 on the far left there. Just annihilating that AT gun. My Verflammen though, pretty much clearing this quite well. Yak 9 coming in, taking a lot of damage. Another Pak-40 on the hill goes down though, and that also kills my Aufthaler accidentally. So lose my eyes really over the town. You can see the amount of recon information that I was having from being in that church. Yeah, nice Yak kill anyway. AA starting to really pay off. Panzergrens, these ones are coming in to try and capitalize on this Verflammen strike, and I brought in a Pak-40 here that's going to be moving into the edge of the building, or like the back garden of this destroyed building, so that I can get shots onto the IS-2 if it decides to get aggressive. Panzergrens MG34 going to be pinned down the Strafniki there in the meantime, and on the right, you know, I'm just chilling, not too much going on. I feel like Hobo kind of gave me this for free. He definitely could have poked this, I think, and found out what was in here, because this is quite a common strategy where you only put like a Flammenwerfer or like another 2-man squad or something in this building. He's probably done the same. He probably only has 1 unit there, but yeah, his like open range capability is much better than mine. Like he could bring in an Su-152 here and just like bombard this and get both of those flags, which is something I was surprised that he didn't do. Instead he's got the Su-152s on the left side, and he's trying to push into the town. So the Panzergren's forced back. I'm going to invest in Focke-Wulfs. I decided to buy a couple more Focke-Wulfs to join the first one that I already had. So I've got 3 Focke-Wulfs now coming in with those 250 kilogram bombs and the 450 kilogram bombs, and they're going to be looking for the Su-152 on this left side. Like I've managed to force back the AA here, and 75 mm AA from the Soviets doesn't really do too well against Focke-Wulfs because they're too fast. So I managed to kill one of them with like 2 of the bombing strikes hitting that, and then I bombed the other one, which is forcing it back. Kind of neutralizes that little push on the left side. Meanwhile, Panzergren's coming in here to jump into this building. But yeah, as I mentioned before, I think an Su-152 out in the open contesting these 2 flags would have been quite nice. It would have forced me to invest in like a Panther to try and fight him off, and then he can just bring in an IS-2 1943 and kill my Panther, right? So that's kind of the play that I expected here, but he didn't really go for it. So I'm just kind of really tunneling into the town and making sure that he can't get any ground here. Meanwhile, Panzer IV going to be coming up onto the ridge. I was really hoping to get it into the garden here before it took any shots, so that I can then fire at the Su-152 without being hit by the T-34. And I do manage to get the shot off, so the Su-152, the second one, does go down to 1 shot, mainly because of the bomber that had already come in and done the health damage. So that was really well done. Stubecke, in the meantime, I managed to get that with the MG, unloading the sapling early. But Su-152 on the right, hitting my Panzergrens very hard there. I was getting to the end of Phase B, we're about to move into Phase C. Things like are looking a little bit bad for me here. Like his income advantage throughout this phase is really starting to come to fruition, but his T-34 runs into my Panzerstreck. I'm currently trying to do my best to deal with the Tankos here. So the Flammenwerfer are just going to kind of stand their ground. Sosup also going to stand their ground. Going to do as much damage as I can. Get the Tankos down to 4 health. One of them down to 1 health. I've got to take out the M2A1s here though. Panzer IV will be able to cover as they continue to move forwards. Focke-Wulf coming in with the bombing strike. Looking for those Tankos. Just got to try and stop them in their tracks. The bombing strike, you know, suppresses well, but completely whiffs. I should have fire positioned that manually. Yak actually comes in to intercept the Focke-Wulf, ends up flying straight over my A8, so that's going to go down. But Panzergrens have been brought in to reinforce, and I've got a Grille on the road. So this is just going to pummel these houses to pieces, pin down his forces, allow me to get aggressive there. Su-152 is providing cover on the right side of that town. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get an AT trap here to work onto the IS-2, but the PaK-40 misses its APCR shell into the side armor, which is really unfortunate for me. Maybe should have got some leadership there first before trying this, because this PaK-40 just ends up dying before this one can get another shot in. Also, from that angle, the IS-2 was actually able to front armor both of them, which was really unfortunate. Anyways, bringing in the P3 to try and hit the PaK-40 whilst he had line of sight on it, but he lost line of sight, so he's not able to attack that. But the P3 in this case, going to be able to get away from the AA just fine. Panzergrens, meanwhile, are being pinned down on the hill. Pioneers there, under threat. And I bring in a leader here. I think I got killed by the Su-152. The Panzergrens here definitely causing issues. Or, you know, not unloading yet, sorry. Gepard, going to be going for Strafniki. Panzer IV, I'm going for the Su-152, but gets crew knocked. With the crew knock, IS-2 lands a cheeky shot from range. Wasn't happy about that, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, Grille going to be getting a shot towards the Stubecke on the road. Looking to try and kill those transports before they unload, or before they get too close. And then the PaK-40. I managed to get that into the back garden of this building to kill the Su-152, but the IS-2 hits another max range shot into the Grille. Kills that. 259 now being brought up onto the hill. So he doesn't really have much like close range armor at this point. Like there is the T-34 here, but the 259s can kind of like sneak around in the buildings and get shots onto the infantry whenever he tries to advance. So that was the plan with those. Meanwhile, I'm just creating a wall of Panzergrens, and the plan was not to really get too aggressive here initially, because I'm just still playing for time. You know, we're moving into Phase C. I'm starting to build my own income advantage now. The longer it gets into Phase C, the better it is for me, because I'm able to just spend way more cash. So I'm bringing in all these Focke-Wulfs, going to be bombing the Strafniki, get those 2 squads, hit this squad really hard, take it down to 3 men from 17. And yeah, just being able to afford
all of these Focke-Wulfs is really, really handy. And one real weakness, which I failed to mention at the start of the game, that I plan to mention later on, which is about now, is they lack AA. They don't necessarily lack AA, but the only AA option they have are these 85 mils. And these are not very good at tracking fighter bombers. So you get away with a lot of these cheeky bombing strikes, especially when the AA is further back and forced further back by things like my Grille engaging them, or the Werflammens that I can use. I do have these Werflammens hanging about. I've got one at the back, didn't have any ammo left. I hadn't brought in any ammo for it yet. And I've got a new one here that's kind of waiting for an opportunity to hit the town. Like a good strike right now would have probably been onto the IS-2, hitting a lot of the tankos in here, but I didn't go for that just yet. T-34, 85, 1944 gets taken out by the Panzer. And the great thing is at this point is any tank that I do kill is really good value, because he's not really going to be able to replace it. You know, with 80 points per minute, if he loses an IS-2 that costs 200 points, you know, he's waiting at least 3 minutes to buy another one. And so that is a huge thing that I can take advantage now. I've just got to keep playing slow and steady, keep trying to trade best I can. And what I opt to do is bring in the 2 Focke-Wulfs. I'm kind of just saving my Werflammen for a rainy day. Like, I just thought this would be the better option. Bring in the double Focke-Wulf, bomb this, use the Pak 40 and the Panzer III to kill it. That was the plan. And then I can like Werflammen any infantry that's like further back as I push forwards with the wall of Panzergrens, because the Panzergrens will be fine if the IS-2 is not there, because they should be able to win against like most of the ranged engagements of his infantry. So the IS-2 there, going to be showing its rear armor as it gets forced to fall back by those 2 bombing strikes, and things are starting to fall apart here for Hobo, and Hobo knows it, and he's going to call the game. So after 25 minutes and 33 seconds, Hobo is going to lose out, unfortunately. He called the game. You might be wondering why he called the game, especially considering he was still in a ticket lead, and he was still, I think, at a 13-11 at that point. But losing an IS-2 in that position, as I mentioned, that's 3 minutes of income in Phase C for him. So, you know, the more I pick off these tanks, the worse and worse it gets for him. I would start steamrolling into the late game, and then he's just going to lose by default because of the income difference. So I think he was like very aware of that. It's still 25 minutes left to go on the match. You know, we're only halfway through the match at that point. So yeah, it was a tough game for him. Couldn't quite get what he needed out of that Maverick. 2,595 kills to 1,480 losses shows exactly like where we were at in that game. You know, I was trading very well. I was kind of ceding a little bit of ground to him, but I was okay with it being like a 13-11 as long as, you know, I could get through Phase B and into Phase C, which is exactly what happened. So the game plan for myself went pretty much perfectly here. There was a few times where, you know, micro plays didn't quite go to plan, but in general, you know, things overall on a macro level went exactly as I'd hoped. Anyway, the Starship Beretta doing fantastically for me. Like, when a 6-man squad can kill 2 20-man squads, you know it's a good squad. Panzer were actually pretty clutch in this game, killing both the T-34-76 there and the T-34-85-1944 up on that ridge. The Pak 40, really, really nice here. Killed an IS-2 1943. I managed to pick off the one. I think that was the one in the town, actually. The Pak 40 claimed the kill there. Panzer IVs taking out T-34-85 and the Su-152. Great value. Werflammen strike that came in, killed 2 Avtos and the Sapere. That was the second strike, killed the Avtos, Strafniki, and the first strike killed the Sapere and forced the other one out of that position, which was actually a pretty important one for me, because those Sapere pushing through could definitely have started putting pressure on the deeper flags and getting me out of position on the hill, which would have opened up a 15-9 opportunity for Hobo. So getting rid of that was quite important. The double Gepard SDK of Z71 combination really shut down his Yaks and also stopped the PE3s, so that worked out in the end, although maybe I should have done it a little bit sooner so I didn't lose the Panzer IV. But other than that, you know, shut down the airplay, that was good. And then I managed to get my Grille to kill his 85s, and I also managed to get the Pack 40 there to kill one of them. So we opened up the air for our own Focke-Wulfs, and yeah, more value came out of those as well. In terms of losses, like his infantry is really, really good early on. So it traded quite well into my weaker squads. Like I definitely crutched on the Flammenwerfer and Starshrew way too much early on. I didn't really bulk myself up with many Panzergrens, and I definitely felt that like at the beginning. But thankfully I didn't lose too much ground with some cheeky micro here and there. IS-2s were definitely difficult to deal with. Su-152s I really feel like could have been used out in the open a little bit, like even just one of them, just to kind of poke those flags there and try and get a little bit of an extra advantage for Hobo, because I think, you know, that there was an opportunity if he holds one of the offensive flags on the hill, which he was, plus 2 in the open, then that's a 15-9, and that's exactly where you want to be as Maverick. So maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity for Hobo, I think, in this one to put more pressure on me across the entire map. Of course, you know, I do have my counters. I can use my aircraft out in the open. I can use my Panther out in the open, but he also can use his LA-7 to cover the skies. He can use his 85s to cover his tanks. He can use the IS-2 to cover his Su-152 against the Panthers. So there are options there. But we didn't really see that. It was just funneled on the town, fighting over the high ground, and this time around I'm going to come out on top. So it's going to be 2-0 in this series against Hobotango, which puts me 4-2 in the Steel Division League Season 9, Division 3. So I am going to be moving on to the playoffs. So we'll see who I'm playing against next. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to make sure that I'm not making like some of the mistakes that I made in this game and also in the previous game, but also the games against attack power. I definitely need to get some practice in on some of these maps, because like both the Slutsk maps that I played against Hobo, I would say I'm quite familiar with, but the Zbuczyn that I played against attack power, yeah, I've got to learn that, and I've really got to learn like the divisions that would suit those as well. So play more like balanced stuff. But I think the 26 balance worked out this time around, and playing balanced against Hobo was kind of something that I thought about doing, because I kind of thought that I'd be able to out-trade him. And also, it turns out that Hobo was actually expecting me to play Vanguard, so that worked out as well. But yeah, anyway, that's it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed these 2 games against Hobo. Big thanks to him for playing the games, of course. It was good fun. But that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.